So this article ran across my screen the other day, and I thought we need to have a conversation about this because I really started to think, should we be correlating this to podcasting? So Bloomberg recently reported that Netflix viewers are abandoning shows just after one season. Netflix has found that many of its biggest shows lose a significant portion of viewers of their audience after season one. That doesn't necessarily mean the shows aren't successful. It just means people aren't coming back. There's a retention problem. Okay, so let's look at some of the examples that they gave. One is One Piece. They recently reported that they lost more than 30% of their audience by season two. Now, I have to admit, I haven't watched season two as yet. I've seen it come out. I can't remember the date. I clicked on it and I just wasn't interested in watching it at the time. And I still have not gotten into it. Beef. I don't actually remember if I watched the first season. I feel like I did, but clearly I don't even remember it for season two. The Night Agent, I did watch that season two. So they've reportedly lost 50% of their audience by season two and another 35% by season three. Now, I watched season two. I don't recall if I watched season three. I don't even know if I knew that it dropped. Je ne sais pas. Now, while Netflix executives are trying to figure out why their audience aren't returning, I couldn't help but ask myself, as podcasters, are we accidentally training our audience to leave when we label our shows with seasons, right? Let's look at what we do know about podcast listeners. Video consumption, right? So video podcast consumption, that is on an all-time high. For the first time, we have people watching podcasts and listening to podcasts, and the metrics are nearly the same, right? We have 82% of weekly podcast consumers that watch video podcasts, and we have 78% that still listen to audio. Good numbers. People aren't really choosing one way or another. They're consuming their podcasts however it's convenient to them. For myself, I know sometimes I listen to it in my car. I definitely watch it on YouTube, just different things. So Apple is also noticing a shift as well. There was a Bloomberg article that reported that Apple's push into video podcasts, because now you can watch your video podcasts on Apple as well. Apple Podcasts, it's showing early promising numbers, right? So video-enabled shows are seeing stronger engagement, and Apple is clearly making investments into that video space. And then, they become a little bit of a competitor to YouTube. So the numbers are still early, but video podcasting is just a part of your ecosystem when it comes to watching or consuming a podcast. So Netflix is competing for that attention, and podcasters are competing for the same attention, right? Which just isn't the same audience. I mean, I watch on both platforms. There's not a lot of podcasts on Netflix as yet. There's some. There's definitely more podcasts on more streaming platforms, but I'll just put that on the back burner for now. So other metrics that we do know, YouTube isn't just where people watch podcasts anymore. It's where people discover them. Okay. So among the first year of podcast consumers, 77% actively watch video podcasts, 75% listen to audio, and 72% started listening to the audio version after discovering the show through a video. Enlightening, right? Enlightening. What's wrong with me? This is new for me. And 72% started listening to the audio version after discovering the show through video. So maybe I'm on YouTube, I find a new show, Voices and Vibes, I'm following Shireen Simon, and now I'm about to head out in my car on this long drive, and maybe I'll go binge listen to a couple of her shows. I don't know, right? Or you pick your podcast of your choice. That's huge because we are now seeing people are just consuming in different ways, right? So watching doesn't always necessarily mean watching, right? People are consuming podcasts on YouTube without actually watching their screen. They're driving, they're cooking, they're cleaning, they're walking their dog. So your audience consumes podcasts based on their convenience and their lifestyle. That's what you need to take away from this. In their car, in the house, on the bus, with a mouse, like wherever they are, whatever's convenient with them. I think about me, maybe if I'm in the gym and I'm on, I want to say the elliptical, most times I'm listening to music, but if I was driving to the gym and I was listening to a great show, I might listen for a bit longer. So one thing we know is podcast audiences are incredibly loyal. Daily podcast consumers spend about 5 hours and 11 minutes every day with audio. 36% of their audio time is with podcasts. 51% of an all ad-supported audio listening is podcasts. Podcast listeners are loyal. The challenge isn't getting their attention, it's staying top of mind. Okay? And I will list all of my sources in the description so you can check out some of these articles that I've been diving into. So here's what's really interesting. I haven't been able to find any published statistic that says that podcast listeners abandon shows after each season. However, there's plenty of research showing that podcast discovery remains one of podcasting's biggest challenge. So if your audience has something else to listen to, or they find something else to listen to while you're away, what happens if they fall in love with another show? Are they coming back to yours? Are you losing viewership or listenership because they're consuming some of that time with a new show or something that maybe didn't take a break for the end of a season? Now, I'm not saying don't release your podcast in seasons, because there's plenty of valid reasons why a host may create their show with seasons. You want to avoid burnout. You want to be able to plan your production, plan your shows, invite your guest scheduling, all the things. If your show is sponsored, or maybe you want to go after other sponsorship, it takes time to do these things. So these things become a part of their planning, right? Maybe you're new at podcasting. I have a lot of new clients in our studio. So maybe you're just testing if podcasting and the whole production of everything is sustainable for you, right? That is something that you could be considering. Or maybe you have to figure out, can you afford to continue doing podcasting? Now, either you have a set at home, or if you're coming into a studio, can you continue the podcast production prices, right? Like, is it feasible for your budget? Then there's other things. You might be taking a vacation. That's why a season ends, right? You probably have to balance other things that you're doing, especially if you're a business owner. You have to balance client work, or maybe you want to go through some rebranding, or maybe you just want to improve the quality before relaunching. Like some of my clients, and this is not necessarily improving quality, but some of my clients, they might start season 1 as just solo episodes because they want to see how it goes. They're new to the whole idea of podcasting. And first, they want to be able to ensure that they like it. They want to be able to ensure that they can keep the cadence of it. And then usually in season 2, which I've seen with a handful of our clients, is in season 2 is when they start bringing on other guests. It depends on like the concept of your show, but there's many reasons why somebody might segment their shows into seasons. Okay. So here's the conversation I think we should be having. If Netflix is asking, how do we get our viewers back? They're looking at retention. Should podcasters be asking, how do we ensure that our audience stays and we are a part of their weekly routine? This is with the assumption that you're releasing your cadence every week. Netflix might disappear, like a Netflix show might disappear, let's say 18 months plus, right? While producing another season. It's going to take some time to kind of plan out the production of that, the scheduling of it, of their other show, the shooting, the whole thing, the editing, and then when a season launches compared to maybe another show. So there's a whole production side of things that, we're not privy to. But then a podcaster might just be away for, let's say, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. They might just take the summer break. They might take a winter break, depending on when they started their show. They might just they might just film shows that align with their budget. So, okay, I bought a package. It has 6 hours or it has 10 hours, depending how they do their shows. Are their shows a half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour? They take that time, use that time when it's done. You know what? That's enough spending for my budget. That's season 1. So there's all kinds of things that might play into when a season ends, but really, should we as podcasters be looking at, well, how do we ensure that we maintain that audience attention even when we're taking a break? We're off to Hawaii or we're off in a cabin somewhere and we still want the audience to stay engaged with our content. And so some of my recommendation would be, I think we need to start planning for our off season before your season ends. You can decide if you want to plan for that off season at the top of your season while you're doing your season planning, or mid-season after you've gotten a few episodes, you've recorded and released some episodes. You might go back and say, you know what? How can I reuse that content? Maybe I haven't released all my clips. So those are things that you continue to release while you're off season. Maybe this is a great time to package up some of the best behind the scenes footage. Maybe this is a good time to look at the best episodes. And maybe in your episodes, there is an opportunity to like double click into some of the conversations. So you do some solo recordings and you go a little bit deeper into those episodes, but you release that when the season ends, right? And, you call it something else, a deep dive into episode 5, right? Maybe there's some guest updates because you had some great guests and they had some things coming up and you have an opportunity to have another conversation with them. So maybe while you're recording, you look at your recording schedule and you bring that guest back in. So you can also do a quick recording, 15-minute, 20-minute recording for a guest update or a reaction video. We see so many people doing reaction videos to things like Love Island and blowing up their YouTube pages, by the way. Why can't we do a reaction video to our own content, to our own podcast videos? And, there's the typical, right? There's your shorts, your reels, your TikTok clips. Those are all pretty much the same thing. Maybe there's quotes that were mentioned within your show. Or what I really like here is a newsletter exclusive. Like this conversation that I'm having right now, I'll probably turn this into some sort of article and put it on the website. So now we are extending our content, but it's not tied just to the season. Or maybe there's like a QA episode. So there's many ways that we can dive deeper into our content. And as long as we plan for it, you've done 10 great shows in a season, 12 great shows in a season. How do we reuse some of that content and schedule it and plan it out so your viewers are still staying engaged with your content? I've been paying attention to the metrics that my clients have, the shows that we're producing in our studio, and what does their monthly viewership look like? What does their total viewership look like? We've actually started with many, many net new shows in our studio. And so there's some of these shows are getting 20,000, 30,000 average views. Those are the higher performing shows. Those are the shows that are consistent with the cadence of their releases, but not just the show releases, also their clips, right? And I'm looking on YouTube specifically. Yes, those clips are going out on all the other social platforms. Those are discussions that we had at the very beginning of how to get started with a podcast. You can go check out those episodes on our page, or those recordings on our page, but they've been consistent with the content and their clips. And even so, if they're using something like Opus or they're using, I have one client, he uses Opus, but he also uses another software that I can't remember at the moment. They're getting these clips and they're pushing them out. They're not necessarily pushing out all of their clips at one time. Now, when we do some planning and scheduling for some of our clients, baby. I mean, we're not like Opus, where Opus is producing like 30 clips, and probably of those 30 clips you can get about 15 of those good clips, or maybe 10 good clips. But we're definitely scheduling out all 10, right? So if someone doesn't have the bandwidth, or maybe they've scheduled out a few, go back into the bank and see, what didn't I use? What can I repurpose? Where can I double click? What behind the scenes did I capture on my phone that I have not shared? There's a lot of content, and keep your audience engaged. If Netflix is a huge company that has billions of dollars, world-class producer, massive marketing budgets, and they're still trying to solve a retention problem, independent podcasters can learn from that before it becomes our problem as well. Don't just plan your season, plan what your audience will experience in between seasons as well. Because audience simply don't wait. They might just develop new habits and find new shows, but let's keep them on your show. As long as your content is great and it's engaging, why not? All right, that's it for this one. Let me know what you think. Drop it in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video. Or go watch the next video. Thanks.